It was a sunny afternoon in Los Angeles. The city was buzzing with excitement because a big charity event was about to begin. It wasn't just any event. It was organized to honor war veterans, police officers, and people who served the country. Many celebrities were invited to support the cause, and one of the most loved guests was none other than Chuck Norris. People respected him not only for his movies, but also because of his support for the military and law enforcement. At the event location, things were busy. Staff members were running around, final touches were being made, and the red carpet was rolled out. Security was tight. FBI was involved too because the guest list included a few high-level individuals. Some agents were on high alert. A young FBI agent named Daniel was one of them. This was his first assignment at such a large-scale event. He was eager to do a good job and was carefully watching everyone. Meanwhile, Chuck Norris arrived through a back entrance. He had taken a quiet route to avoid attention and didn't have a big team with him, just his assistant. Chuck liked to keep things simple. He wore a plain shirt, jeans, and a baseball cap. He wasn't trying to stand out. In fact, he wanted to slip in quietly and surprise the veterans. As he walked down the hallway backstage, Chuck passed by some guards. Most of them recognized him and smiled or nodded, but Agent Daniel didn't. Daniel had never seen Chuck in real life, only in a few old photos and movies. He had joined the FBI recently and was focused on spotting any suspicious activity. Chuck, dressed like an ordinary man and walking around without a badge, looked like someone trying to sneak into a restricted area. Daniel's training had taught him to act quickly if anything seemed wrong. So when Chuck turned a corner and came closer, Daniel immediately stepped forward, pulled out his gun, and pointed it at him. "Stop right there. Don't move." Daniel shouted, his voice loud and serious. Chuck froze. The hallway became silent. Chuck slowly raised his hands and looked at the agent. His face showed no fear, just calm surprise. Said softly, "I'm Chuck Norris. I'm supposed to be here." Daniel didn't lower his gun. He narrowed his eyes. To him, this could still be someone pretending to be Chuck. He needed to be. Sure, but the tension in the air was growing. A few staff members nearby gasped. Someone dropped a clipboard. A makeup artist, who had been walking with a brush in hand, stood frozen, eyes wide. Chuck didn't move. He didn't panic. He didn't raise his voice or argue. Just stood there, calmly, trying to avoid making the situation worse. His assistant, a few steps behind, tried to speak, but stopped when Daniel shouted again. "I said stay where you are." More people began to gather at the end of the hallway. They were whispering and looking confused. "Is that Chuck Norris?" one of them asked. "I think it is. ... What's going on?" said another. Daniel didn't look back. He kept his eyes on Chuck, his hand firm on the weapon. His heart was racing. He thought he was protecting everyone, but in reality, he was holding a gun at a national icon. Chuck slowly said again, "Listen, I know this looks strange, but I was invited. I came through the back so I wouldn't disturb the crowd." Daniel's hands started to shake just slightly. Somewhere deep inside, he began to doubt his decision. Could this really be Chuck Norris? Suddenly, one of the event organizers ran in from the other end of the hallway. She had been informed by a security guard that something was wrong backstage. As soon as she saw the scene, she rushed forward, holding a program booklet. "Agent, that's Chuck Norris," she said, breathless. "He's our guest of honor. Please lower your weapon." Daniel looked at her, then at the crowd behind her. More and more people were gathering now. Cameras had started to come out. Phones were recording. The tension was thick. Chuck remained still. Daniel's mind raced. Could he have made a mistake? He'd only wanted to protect the event. He didn't want to hurt anyone at that moment. A soft voice came from behind Chuck. An elderly man in a decorated veteran's cap stepped forward. His name was Walter, a retired Army sergeant who had served in Vietnam. He had come to the event, hoping to shake hands with Chuck Norris, his hero. He walked calmly toward the agent and said, "Son, that man's not a threat. That's the man who visited my hospital when no one else did. He's the reason I'm here today." The room went silent again. Daniel looked at the old man, then back at Chuck, who gave him a small nod as if to say, "It's okay." Finally, Daniel lowered his gun. He took a step back, looked down, and whispered, "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't recognize you." Chuck took a gentle step forward, reached out, and placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "No hard feelings," he said. "You're just doing your job. You were protecting everyone. That's something to be proud of." The tension melted. People clapped, not loudly, but enough to be heard. It wasn't just relief, it was respect. Respect for Chuck, for his calmness, and for the agent who, even in mistake, showed courage. The cameras kept rolling, but Chuck didn't pose. He didn't make a scene, simply smiled at Walter, shook his hand, and walked toward the stage area, ready to do what he came for or know the real heroes. And behind him, Agent Daniel stood still, learning a lesson he would never forget. Would you like me to continue with part 2? The moment when the FBI agent lowered his gun did not end the tension. In fact, it was just the beginning of something much bigger. The crowd that had gathered backstage was quiet, but their eyes were full of questions. People were curious too. See how Chuck Norris, a man famous all over the world for his strength and calmness, would handle this strange and difficult moment. They watched as Chuck slowly moved forward, his face calm but thoughtful. Chuck was not just a famous actor or martial artist. He was also a man who had learned many lessons from life, including how to stay calm in tough situations. He had faced danger many times, in movies and in real life, and he knew that anger or fear would only make things worse. So, he took a deep breath and focused on the people around him. Among the crowd were veterans and their families, event staff, and other guests. Some were whispering to each other, sharing their thoughts about what had just happened. "I've never seen anything like this before," said a woman quietly. "It's amazing how calm he stayed." Another man nodded. "So that FBI agent must have been scared too." This is a reminder that sometimes even heroes face hard times. Chuck walked over to a group of veterans who were standing nearby. One of them, a tall man with gray hair named James, looked at Chuck with admiration. James had served in the Marines and had heard many stories about Chuck's support for the military. "Mr. Norris," James said respectfully, "it's an honor to have you here. You represent strength and kindness at the same time." Chuck smiled warmly. "Thank you, James. It means a lot to me. But today, the real heroes are all of you. I'm here to honor your service." The veterans nodded, feeling proud and grateful. Meanwhile, Agent Daniel was still standing a few feet away, feeling a mix of relief and embarrassment. He had never expected that his mistake would be seen by so many people, or that it would involve someone like Chuck Norris. His hands were still a little shaky, and his mind raced with questions. Had he done the right thing by drawing his weapon? Was he too quick to judge? Could this moment change how he saw his job? As these thoughts ran through Daniel's head, a senior FBI officer approached him. "Daniel," the officer said quietly, "you handled a tough situation the best you could. But remember, sometimes we need to stop and think before we act. It's okay to ask questions calmly before jumping to conclusions." Daniel nodded, grateful for the advice. He looked back at Chuck, who was now talking with the event's security team, helping them understand who he was and why he had come quietly. The agent realized that even in high-pressure jobs, mistakes happen. But how you fix those mistakes matters most. The crowd outside the hallway was starting to get curious about the commotion backstage. Some guests were already talking among themselves, wondering what had happened. Rumors spread quickly, and soon, several people pulled out their phones to capture videos or take pictures. Social media was already buzzing with the first hints of the story. Back inside, Chuck was preparing to go on stage. The event organizer came over to him, whispering that the crowd was waiting. She looked a little nervous, but also impressed by how smoothly Chuck had handled the confusion. Before walking to the stage, Chuck took a moment to look around. He saw veterans smiling, some wiping tears from their eyes. He saw Agent Daniel, still standing quietly, learning an important lesson about trust and respect. Chuck knew that today was about more than just a charity event. It was about bringing people together. As he stepped onto the stage, the crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, and the room filled with cheers. Chuck smiled and raised his hand in a small wave. Then, with a clear voice, he began to speak. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," he said. "This event is about honoring the brave men and women who serve our country. It's about remembering that courage and kindness go hand in hand." His words were simple but powerful. People listened closely. Chuck spoke about respect, patience, and understanding, the same qualities he had shown just minutes before when the FBI agent had mistaken him for a threat. Meanwhile, news reporters outside had picked up on the story. Headlines began to appear online. Chuck Norris calms FBI standoff at charity event and heroic calm. How Chuck Norris diffused a tense moment. Videos of the moment the gun was lowered started to go viral. The story spread quickly, inspiring many. People praised Chuck, not just for his fame, but for his kindness and grace. They also spoke about the pressures on security officers like Agent Daniel, who had a difficult job but showed courage by admitting his mistake. Backstage, the FBI agent was quietly reflecting. He knew that this experience would change him. He promised himself to be more careful and respectful in the future, to remember that every person has a story and deserves dignity. As the event continued, Chuck met with many veterans and their families, signed autographs, took pictures, and listened to stories. His presence brought smiles and hope. The moment of tension was already becoming a distant memory. In the evening, as the event wrapped up, the organizers thanked Chuck and the security team for their hard work. The FBI agent received quiet praise for handling the situation without panic or force. Chuck left the event feeling fulfilled. He had come to honor heroes, and in a way, he had become part of a story that taught everyone an important lesson, that respect and calm can turn even the hardest moments into something good. Would you like me to continue with part 3? The moment the tension started to fade backstage, the crowd's energy shifted in a surprising way. What had begun as a quiet gathering around Chuck Norris and the FBI agent now grew into a wave of support and respect from everyone present. People who had been watching from nearby began to move closer, not with fear or anger, but with a calm and unified purpose. The atmosphere changed from one of uncertainty to one filled with quiet strength and understanding. Among the crowd, many veterans who had served their country stood side by side. They exchanged knowing looks and nodded at each other. These men and women had seen difficult situations before, and they recognized that this moment called for patience and unity. It was not a time for blame or conflict, but for standing together and showing respect. One of the veterans, a man named Samuel, stepped forward. He was in his 70s, with silver hair and kind eyes that had witnessed much in life. Samuel approached the young FBI agent slowly, without making sudden moves. He placed a gentle hand on Daniel's shoulder, the agent who had drawn his gun. The touch was not one of reprimand, but of guidance. "Son," Samuel said quietly, "we understand the pressure you're under. You're trying to keep everyone safe, and that's important. But sometimes the best way to protect people is to keep calm and listen first." Daniel looked at Samuel, feeling a mixture of relief and humility. He had been tense and fearful moments before, but now he realized the importance of trust and respect. The presence of the veterans in the crowd was a reminder that people were more than what they seemed at first glance. Nearby, a woman held up the event program that listed Chuck Norris as the guest of honor. She showed it to Daniel, who studied the page carefully. The printed photo of Chuck made it clear who the man was. Slowly, Daniel lowered his gaze and nodded in understanding. He took a deep breath and said softly, "Thank you. I'm sorry for the mistake." Chuck Norris smiled gently. "It's all right," he said. "You were doing your job, and that's something to respect. But remember, kindness goes a long way." The crowd responded with warm applause. It was not just for Chuck, but for the way the situation had been handled. No one wanted anger or fear to win that day. Instead, they chose respect and calm, showing that even when mistakes happen, people can come together and support each other. As the applause faded, a man from the event security team approached Daniel. He spoke calmly. "Agent, I know this was difficult, but you showed courage by admitting the mistake. That takes strength." Daniel nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. He realized this was not just about security. It was about people and the trust they place in those who protect them. Meanwhile, Chuck moved through the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging kind words with veterans and guests. His presence brought smiles and comfort. People saw not just a celebrity, but a man who cared deeply about others. News cameras captured the moment. Reporters asked questions, and attendees shared their feelings. The story began to spread quickly outside the event, inspiring many who heard it. Social media buzzed with messages praising the calm and respect shown that day. Backstage, the event organizer spoke quietly with Chuck. "You handled that moment perfectly," she said. "You showed what real leadership looks like." Chuck nodded. "It's easy to be strong when you stay calm. Everyone deserves respect, especially in tough moments." Agent Daniel watched and listened. He thought about the lessons he had learned in those few minutes. He knew he would never forget how the crowd came together, how veterans and guests united to protect not just Chuck Norris, but the idea of respect itself. Later, Daniel was asked to share his story with his fellow agents. He spoke honestly about the pressure he felt and how the crowd's support helped him understand the importance of patience and kindness. The incident became a training story, how quick reactions must be balanced with respect and careful thought. It was a reminder that security was about protecting people, not just enforcing rules. As the event came to a close, Chuck took one last look around, saw smiles, handshakes, and new friendships formed. The tension was gone, replaced by a sense of community and understanding. This moment would be remembered by many not because of fear or conflict, but because of how people chose to rise above it. They chose kindness. They chose respect. Chose to stand together. "Would you like me to continue with part 4? ChatGPT said. The apology from Agent Daniel was sincere and heartfelt. He felt the weight of what had just happened. In his mind, the moment he raised his gun at Chuck Norris played over and over, reminding him of how quickly things could go wrong. But Chuck, with his usual calm and kindness, had accepted the apology without anger. This simple act of grace showed a lot about the man he was. The crowd that had gathered backstage had started to disperse, but many stayed behind to talk quietly about the event. People were impressed by Chuck's reaction and by how the FBI agent handled the situation once he realized his mistake. It was clear to everyone that this incident could have ended badly, but it didn't. Instead, it turned into a story of respect and understanding. News reporters who had been covering the charity event rushed to get statements from everyone involved. Some asked Chuck how he felt when the agent drew his gun. Chuck replied simply, "I stayed calm because I knew fear or anger would not help. I wanted to show respect and trust, even when others didn't. That's how we keep peace." Many viewers around the country were touched by Chuck's words. He became an example of how to face difficult moments with dignity and patience. His message was clear: respect others, even when it's hard. That lesson resonated with people of all ages. Agent Daniel also spoke to the press. He explained the pressure security officers face, especially in high-profile events. He said it's a tough job, and sometimes you make mistakes. But it's important to learn from them and keep trying to do better. His honesty was respected by many. People saw that even trained professionals can have moments of doubt and error, but how they respond matters the most. The video footage of the incident quickly went viral on social media. Millions watched as Chuck Norris calmly stood with his hands raised while the agent held his gun. Then, the moment when the crowd stepped in and the gun was lowered was shared everywhere. Comments poured in praising the calmness of Chuck and the courage of the agent to admit his mistake. The event organizers also took the opportunity to speak about the importance of trust and communication in security. They said that this experience taught them how vital it is to train staff to recognize people and situations carefully, and to always stay calm under pressure. Meanwhile, Chuck spent time meeting with veterans who had come to the event. Many shared stories of their service, their sacrifices, and their hopes for the future. Chuck listened attentively and offered words of encouragement. His presence was more than just a celebrity visit, it was a meaningful connection. Among the veterans was Walter, the man who had earlier stepped forward to calm the FBI agent. Walter told Chuck, "You didn't just come here today to honor us, you showed us how to be brave in real life." Chuck smiled and replied, "We all have moments when we need courage. Sometimes it's standing in front of a crowd, other times, It's forgiving someone who makes a mistake. It's real strength. The day ended with a feeling of hope and unity. What started as a tense situation transformed into a powerful lesson for everyone present. Agent Daniel returned to his work with a new mindset. He promised himself to approach his duties with greater care and understanding. The experience taught him that people's stories matter, and that calm respect is the best tool in any difficult moment. For Chuck Norris, the incident was another reminder of why he worked so hard to support veterans and communities. It was not just about being a hero on screen, but about living with kindness and patience in everyday life. As the news spread, many people were inspired to think differently about how they deal with conflict and fear. The story showed that even in moments of tension, peace is possible when we choose respect. Would you like me to continue with part 5? After the event ended, the story of what had happened backstage continued to grow. People all over the country heard about how an FBI agent had drawn a gun on Chuck Norris, only to realize his mistake moments later. But more importantly, they heard about how the crowd had come together to support respect, calm, and understanding. The story became more than just an event. It became a lesson for many. Chuck Norris took time in the days following to speak openly about what happened. In interviews and talks, he didn't focus on the mistake the FBI agent made. Instead, he spoke about the power of patience and kindness. He said that everyone, no matter who they are, can face difficult moments. What matters most is how we respond. To those moments with respect and calmness, he reminded people that anger and fear often make situations worse. But when we listen and show kindness, we open the door to peace and understanding. Chuck's words resonated deeply with many listeners, especially those who had faced misunderstandings or challenges in their own lives. The FBI agent, Daniel, also shared his experience. He talked about how the incident changed him and taught him a valuable lesson about humility and respect. He explained how difficult it can be to work in security, where quick decisions are sometimes needed, but also how important it is to stay calm and to recognize the humanity in everyone. Daniel was invited to speak at training sessions for other agents and officers. He told them about the day he met Chuck Norris and how the support of the crowd helped him realize that respect could turn a tense situation into a peaceful one. His story helped many understand that mistakes don't have to end in disaster. They can be moments of learning and growth. The media continued to share clips from the event, highlighting the moments of calm and respect. Social media users shared messages about the importance of kindness in difficult times. Many praised Chuck Norris not just as a celebrity, but as a role model who showed how to handle pressure with dignity. The veterans who had been at the event felt proud that their presence had helped ease the tension. They believed that the moment showed the strength of their community and the importance of standing together. Chuck continued his work supporting veterans and communities. He visited hospitals, held charity events, and spoke to young people about respect and kindness. The experience with the FBI agent only made him more determined to spread a message of peace and understanding. The young FBI agent Daniel kept the memory of that day close. It reminded him to always pause, to listen, and to treat everyone with respect, even when the pressure is high. He knew that being calm and kind was one of the strongest ways to protect people. The crowd's reaction that day had shown that people can come together even in moments of fear and confusion. Their calm support helped turn a dangerous situation into a story of hope. This story inspired many people to think about how they face their own challenges. It was a reminder that respect, patience, and kindness are powerful tools anyone can use. In the end, what happened that day was more than just an event. It was a lesson in humanity. It showed that even when mistakes are made, people can choose to respond with grace and understanding. And for Chuck Norris, that day was a quiet victory, not with fists or force, but with calm courage and respect that touched the hearts of many. Would you like me to help with anything else?